Hello, my kindred friend. Do you feel that today's world seems too rushed? We often live like tennis balls, constantly bouncing back at every impact from our surroundings. Whenever someone criticizes us, we immediately argue back. Whenever someone provokes us, we instantly explode. The Buddha once reminded us of a profound wisdom. You will not be punished for your anger, but you will be punished by your anger immediately. The true strength we have long sought lies absolutely not in the ability to respond forcefully, but in the ultimate power of standing still and not reacting. Mastering your reaction is the moment you begin to fully master the destiny of your life. What if every problem never lay in the world out there, but actually in the very way you are reacting to that world? The consciousness journey and the promise of freedom. I invite you to enter a journey of 7 steps of wisdom to build an inner self so steadfast that absolutely nothing can shake it. I promise that by fully following these shares, you will hold the secret to becoming as unchangeable as a majestic mountain before a storm and as still as a rippleless lake. You will realize that you can entirely live a life of freedom where insults or adversity are merely passing breezes that cannot touch your peaceful heart. Let us begin our first lesson on the true power of inner letting go. Lesson 1. Letting go is the greatest source of inner strength. Observe the invisible strings that daily control your emotions. Have you ever wondered why a casual remark from a stranger can make you lose sleep all night? Or an undesirable result can make you fall into a deep pit of total disappointment? In the Buddha's wisdom, the root of this exhaustion lies in a sacred concept called attachment, or upadana, the act of the mind trying to grasp onto something as a support for its ego. You are agitated, not because the world outside is too harsh, but because your mind is attached too deeply to an expectation that everyone must treat you well, or everything must happen exactly as you wish. The moment reality goes against that expectation is when the string of attachment is pulled taut, creating heartbreaking pain in your chest. Many of us often mistake letting go or non-attachment for becoming cold, insensitive, or indifferent to the pain of life. But dear friend, true letting go in Buddhism is actually a source of immense and steady inner strength. Imagine yourself as an ancient tree standing in a storm. Though the wind blows hard and the canopy may shake violently because your roots have plunged deep into the still Mother Earth, you are never toppled or completely shattered. One who knows how to let go is someone who still loves and cherishes life dearly, but they absolutely do not let praise, blame, success, or failure determine their own peace. They allow all karmic conditions to come and go naturally, like breezes over a barren cliff, without seeking to hold on or resent anything. True freedom arises at the exact moment you realize the power to master happiness lies entirely in your hands, not in the tongues of the world. When you stop clutching, your hands suddenly become empty to receive the healing life force of the universe. You do not need to change the whole world to have peace. You only need to loosen your mental grip to let life flow most naturally. Right now, as your breath soothes your body and mind, I invite you to ask your heart deeply. Right now, what am I stubbornly holding on to that makes my soul so heavy? Lesson 2. Observe emotions instead of absorbing them. Look at how we often unintentionally turn ourselves into a sponge, silently soaking up every negative energy source from those around us every day. When someone vents anger or acute sorrow onto you, your natural instinct is usually to immediately receive it and let those emotional currents invade the entire temple of your body and mind. In the Buddha's wisdom, there is a miraculous practice called vipassana, or insight meditation, which helps you undo this mistaken attachment by teaching you how to observe everything instead of letting yourself be identified with and absorbing them into your bloodstream. You need to understand very deeply that the feelings of anxiety or hurt arising are actually just temporary physiological phenomena occurring in the body and mind. They are absolutely not your true essence, and they have no power to dictate your peace if you do not pick them up yourself. Imagine the anger or judgment of others as a glowing red-hot coal. If someone, out of delusion, throws that coal at you, and you hurriedly reach out to catch it and hug it tight, the only person painfully burned is you, not the one who threw it. But if you choose the position of a compassionate witness, standing still and watching that coal fall to the ground and slowly fade into ash without touching it, your inner stillness will forever be preserved intact like a calm lake. I invite you at this moment to take a deep breath in, to feel the life force nourishing every cell, and breathe out very slowly, to invite all energy that does not belong to you to vanish completely into the quiet void. When you begin to direct your attention toward the physical sensations, such as a tightening in the chest or a burning sensation on the cheeks, simply gently tell yourself, "I see this feeling present, but I am not this feeling." Observing emotions from a mindful distance is how you create a sacred shield to protect your freedom amidst a world full of agitation. You have no obligation to carry anyone's psychological burden, and you absolutely do not need to punish yourself with toxic emotions that the world outside unintentionally throws at you. Engrave this profound truth into the depths of your consciousness to protect the lamp of peace within you. You are the vast sky, always still and radiant, while all emotions are just passing clouds. They may obscure the view for a moment, but they can absolutely never hurt or become your deep blue sky itself. Lesson 3. True power lies in the moment of the pause. In the frantic and hurried flow of daily events, we often mistake that we must immediately respond to every impact to avoid losing out or being hurt before the world. But dear friend, Buddhist wisdom points to a liberating truth. A person's greatest strength does not lie in the action of forceful resistance, but in the sacred pause right before that action begins. You need to clearly recognize that between an external stimulus, like a colleague's criticism, or a sudden event agitating your life, and your natural reaction, there always exists a tiny gap. If you rush through that gap following defensive instincts, you are living like a machine programmed by old habits and long-suppressed karmic forces. But if you learn how to stop right at that fragile intersection, that is when you truly touch the door of absolute freedom. This wise pause is a form of high mindfulness, where you reclaim the ultimate right to actively choose your attitude toward life, instead of letting circumstances or the tongues of others completely coordinate the emotions inside your chest. I invite you to practice the habit of pausing whenever you feel your heart rate start to increase or your breath start to quicken due to some mundane provocation. Daily meditation practice is actually a process of persistent training to silently widen that sacred gap, giving your nervous system enough time to calm the chemical storms inside the brain, and helping wisdom speak up before anger turns into words or actions that can shatter the peace of yourself and others. The pause at this moment is absolutely not a sign of weakness or slowness. It is actually an extraordinary bravery when you dare to stand firm right in the center of all movement and do not allow anything to drag your soul away from the harbor of stillness. Always remember this profound reminder as a compass for your consciousness every day. True freedom only arises at the exact moment you realize you have the right not to react immediately to the agitations of the world. When you master this pause, you will see the world suddenly become much more gentle and spacious, because you are no longer a victim of momentary impulses, but have truly become the wise master, silently guiding the ship of your life toward the light of perfect peace. Lesson 4. Let the fire fade by itself in silence. Imagine a fierce fire burning right before your eyes, If you do not add dry wood or hot oil to it, by natural law, that fire must surely fade and vanish into the void when the supplied energy is completely exhausted. In the tense confrontations of the world, the anger or provocation of others is actually just a fire craving more. Fuel your negative reaction to continue burning more strongly. Old survival instincts often urge you to retaliate immediately. You want to use a more bitter word to answer an insult, or use an aggressive action to compensate for the hurt of the long anxious ego. But dear friend, the Buddha left a sacred wisdom. Hatred never ceases by hatred. Only by love and letting go can the fire of resentment be extinguished. That is an eternal law that never changes in this world. I invite you to view the world's attacks as someone trying to hand you a burning torch full of toxic smoke. If you hurriedly reach out to receive that torch, just to find a way to throw it back at them, the first to be burned and suffer most is your own bare hands, not anyone else. When you choose not to receive that toxic gift, when you choose to stand firm and not react, then the other person is actually just holding a piece of burning wood in their own hand, and they are the ones who must endure the heat from their own anger. The miracle of non-reaction lies in the fact that every time you bravely maintain stillness before a storm, your brain undergoes a miraculous reprogramming process. The neural ruts of hatred and resistance will gradually fade to make room for the formation of new connections, full of wisdom and self-compassion. Every time you refuse to participate in a war of words or a low retaliation, you are asserting supreme sovereignty over your own peace. You truly have no obligation to extinguish someone else's fire. You only need to keep the house of your consciousness from catching fire. At this very moment, as the warmth of compassion soothes every vessel, I invite you to silently ask yourself a profound reflective question. Is spending the precious time of your life as a firefighter for the world's anger truly as valuable as keeping the inner lamp of mindfulness always clear and serene amidst this murky world? When you understand that wise silence is not a sign of losing, but a sacred protective power, the darkness of resentment will have no place to hide, and your soul will always be free and peaceful in every fluctuation of life. Lesson 5. Silence is the language of the wise. The human ego is usually very afraid of silence. In that quiet and wordless space, the mask of the self begins to crack, and the noisy voices of calculation suddenly become clearer than ever. We live in an era where noise is considered a measure of strength, and words are used as a weapon to prove self-worth. But dear friend, the Buddha left a sacred wisdom in the Dhammapada. If you can keep yourself silent, like a broken gong, no longer sounding with notes of complaint or resistance, then that is when you have reached the threshold of the most perfect peace. Wise silence is absolutely not a sign of cowardice or fear running away from reality, but rather an ultimate power to protect the temple of your soul from the invasion of the world's murky noise. First, I invite you to contemplate with me the power of silence toward the outside world. When someone uses bitter words to attack you, or when life throws acute injustices at you, the first reaction of the ego is to want to scream and use language to protect its honor. But look closely. Every time you speak to argue, you are manually removing the shield protecting your inner peace and letting the opponent's negative energy penetrate deep inside your bloodstream. The wise choose silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand there are moments when words only further muddy the truth. Your silence now is like a crystal-clear lake without a ripple, where every pebble of slander falls to the deep bottom without being able to agitate the profound stillness below. You choose not to respond, meaning you choose not to receive the torch of anger from others, and that very silence is the most powerful message for the opponent's ego to reflect on its own delusion. Rising above silence with the world is the higher step called inner silence. This is when you learn how to dialogue with the very noise echoing inside your consciousness every day. Observe the thousands of anxious thoughts and self-judgments constantly leaping like mischievous monkeys. We are often weary because we are busy arguing and trying to convince those voices to be quiet. But the reality is that the more you resist, the louder the noise becomes. Silence with oneself begins with the ability to dare to stop all inner argumentative wars. You allow thoughts to be present, but you absolutely do not give them the power to coordinate your emotions. You stand in the position of a silent witness and watch all agitations dissolve like mist under the early morning sun. In that space of inner quiet, you will realize a miraculous truth. Peace is not a state of having no thoughts, but peace is when you are no longer disturbed by those thoughts. Silence is the true home where you find a sacred connection with your complete essence and where all soul wounds are covered by the light of the deepest self-compassion. When you master the language of silence, you will find yourself unchangeable before all winds of praise and blame, honor and disgrace, because you have found a radiant and steady life force always flowing in the wordlessness of the soul. Lesson 6. Complete acceptance is the end of all suffering. Understand a strange truth that silently operates in this life. Suffering does not actually arise from what has happened to you, but is nourished by the very fierce resistance of your mind against those events. We often spend all our vitality screaming internally that this should not have happened, that person should not have treated us that way, or why fate is so unfair. This very effort to want reality to be different is the direct seed creating the tightness in the chest and depleting the inherent recovery energy within your form. In the Buddha's supreme wisdom, complete acceptance is the final door leading to total liberation from all chains of the mind. This is when you learn to lay down your weapons and stop the internal war with your own life right now. I want you to clearly identify a common confusion that makes us fear acceptance, equating acceptance with liking or agreeing with terrible things. Understand that accepting reality absolutely does not mean you have to like the pain tormenting you, nor does it mean you approve of someone else's wrongdoing toward you. Imagine you are walking in a torrential rain without an umbrella. If you stand there and angrily resent the sky, if you strain to deny the fact that you are getting wet, the only reality is that you are still wet. But your soul is further miserable and weary from that futile resistance. The wise choose to accept that it is raining and they are getting wet. They acknowledge that reality calmly, and from that very acceptance, they are clear-sighted enough to find a porch for shelter or calmly walk on without inner torment. Acceptance is you stopping the expenditure of energy on what cannot be changed to save that precious resource for what you can truly master. The deepest healing journey arises at the exact moment you dare to change your life's question. Instead of being stuck in the spiral of, "Why me?" a question that only leads you into the deep pit of victimhood and resentment, try switching to a powerful new question. What should I do now? When you ask, what should I do now? With what is happening, you are officially stepping out of the role of a sufferer to become the master of mindfulness. You no longer waste time arguing with the past, but begin to concentrate all your strength on creating peace right in the present. This requires you to learn to accept even those who once hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be serene. When your tolerance is large enough to encompass even adversity, you will find yourself suddenly becoming untouchable, because nothing can shake the foundation of your inner freedom anymore. Before closing this great lesson, I invite you to perform an internal gesture to sow the seed of liberation deep into your subconscious by repeating the following affirmation as a prayer for your own serenity. I accept this moment as it is. I accept myself as I am. I accept my life as it is. Let those sounds soak deep into every vessel and soothe every deepest ache in your chest. Every time you choose to accept is a time you are removing a chain of suffering and stepping closer toward the radiant light of absolute freedom. The practice journey. Concentrating energy over time. Our walking journey through the gardens of wisdom now leads you to a final door where all the precious knowledge you just heard needs to be transformed into a vivid inner force through daily persistent training. In Buddhist language, this process is called bhavana, the cultivation or persistent enrichment of the mind. Understand deeply that the most precious medicine in the world becomes useless if we only keep it in a glass cabinet. Similarly, lessons on letting go or compassion only truly bring healing power when they are watered into your every breath and smallest action throughout the murky life ahead. Look at how your life force is being consumed every day. We often live in a state of scattered and leaking energy, like a stream split into thousands of tiny creeks. Your mind worries about the past, panics over the future, and attaches to the world's judgments. The secret of the wise lies in the ability to gather all those scattered rays of light to create a focused and piercing beam. Imagine the image of tiny water droplets silently falling onto a hard rock for 1,000 years. Each droplet seems to carry no strength and cannot immediately change the shape of that rough rock. But, dear friend, if those droplets persistently fall on the exact same spot, day after day, month after month, with a steady rhythm, then, miraculously, even the most solid rock must wear down and make way for the pure water to pass through. Your spiritual practice is exactly the same. It does not require you to perform extraordinary efforts in a moment. It requires the gentle regularity of each mindful inhale and exhale every day. Every time you realize you are being agitated and actively return to the wise pause is a sacred drop of water falling on the rock of long-standing karma. Every time you choose silence and observation instead of acute reaction is a sturdy bridge being built for you to move closer to your radiant and free essence. Cherish even the moments you feel you are not good yet, the moments your heart is still agitated, and treat yourself with the most tolerant smile. Only persistence and patience is the most eloquent evidence of an unchangeable inner strength that nothing in the world can violate. As the music of mindfulness gradually goes into its final quiet notes, I invite you to carry with you the 6 sacred treasures we found together. Letting go so the soul is no longer chained by narrow expectations. Silent observation so the heart is not muddied by negative energies. The wise pause to touch the door of true freedom, the art of letting the fire of resentment fade in the night. Complete acceptance to end the long internal war. And finally, the persistent power of faith to help you cross the most difficult moments. Look at yourself once more and realize a miraculous truth. You are no longer a tennis ball bouncing aimlessly before provocation or changes in circumstance. You are truly the majestic and steadfast mountain residing in your own infinite stillness. The clouds of anxiety may gather and vanish. The winds of gossip may blow through and subside. But the mountain inside you remains forever towering and shining radiantly behind all the passing mists of momentary emotion. Every day, spend just a few brief moments to return and visit that mountain within your soul. Let this final confirmation saturate the depths of your subconscious to protect your freedom. I am unchangeable. I am peaceful. And I completely master the reactions of my own soul at this very moment. If this space has provided you with protection, please sow a good seed so we may continue to accompany each other on the path of awakening. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. May your body and mind be at peace. Goodbye. and see you again.